Well, hi everyone, and welcome to this month's Spotlight on interview. I'm Brendan, Director of Strategy and Networkology here at Purple Space. And quick audio description: I'm a white man, 40 years old, short, dark, greying hair, wearing glasses, blue jumper, sat in front of a blurred MS Teams background. So, as you'll know, Spotlight On is the series where we dive into the world of a member of our community of disability ERG leaders, champions, and allies, and explore the leadership lessons that they have learned and how they're applying them to help create a better working world for their colleagues with disabilities. This month is all about how disability ERGs help to create and build inner confidence, and how ERG leaders can support their colleagues with disabilities to grow their inner confidence. And the reason we chose this theme is that over the years, thousands of employees with disabilities have shared with us that whilst, of course, there are numerous external barriers, whether that's physical or digital accessibility or the attitude of the folks around them, it can also be their own lack of personal disability confidence as well, which can hamper careers and, sometimes even risk damaging mental and physical well-being. So that's why we're focused on the topic today, and our guest this month is perfectly placed to explore the topic with us. So I've had the pleasure of knowing Andy Garrett for a long time. Andy is Workplace Adjustments and Accessibility Director at GSK, where he also leads the Global Disability Confidence Network. Prior to joining GSK, Andy had a 30-year career in the UK's largest police service, the Metropolitan Police, where he held a number of different roles, including being the chair of the MPS Disability Staff Association. And Andy is also a founding Purple Space ambassador, appointed in 2005, and the chair of our Purple Confidence think tank, which helps set the standards for the tools and the resources that Purple Space creates to support ERG and network leaders to help employees with disabilities to build their inner confidence. So Andy, welcome and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan, and thank you, of course, for inviting me to contribute today. My name's Andy Garrett, as you've given my job description. Yeah, I'm, for audio description purposes, I'm a white male in his mid 50s, brown-haired, wearing a blue top with a blurred MS Team background. Delighted to be contributing to this discussion today.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, Andy. That was quite some introduction as I was reading through. Interesting career. Did I miss anything?
No, perhaps I should. Slight correction. I'm co-lead of our Global Disability Confidence Network. I've got a fantastic co-lead partner over in the United States called Tracy Mitchelson. So, yeah, we work together, leading the network, but also as members of our Global Disability Council. So we're fortunate that we can help to shape the disability confidence plan that we've got at GSK.
Yeah, no, great, and shout out to Tracy. We love her work equally. So look, Andy, inner confidence. You are, as we have said, the co-chair of the Disability Confidence Network at GSK. You are a seasoned disability ERG leader from previous roles as well. So to kick us off, what is it that drives you to play such a central role in supporting your colleagues and your organizations to build disability confidence?
I suppose I can't really overstate the benefits in being disability confident, and for me, helping others to be the best they can be. It took me personally a while to get there. When I first developed my central field vision condition when I was in the police, and essentially I want to make it easier for others. So, as a person with disability myself, having spent now a large part of my career specializing in, workplace disability inclusion, I see the value that stems from organizations properly engaging with, and supporting people with disabilities. It's a win-win for everyone. So helping to lead disability inclusion change, for me, feels good, and of course it improves the disability opportunities for everyone. So in the wider sense, building that structural accessibility inclusion into organizations it helps to support a more positive culture, yeah, and of course our productivity as people with disabilities. You know, and for me, it's so much more than just a reactive compliance model that you sometimes see, yeah, where businesses only support those who qualify for support. You know, this is about inclusion for everyone. So that's what drives me, you know,
Yeah.
getting it right.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at your current job description, the kind of the two leadership roles that you have. So one at the functional level, so leading on accessibility, and then you have your disability ERG leadership role as well, which is about, I suppose, building disability confidence from the inside out through the employee experience. And
yeah,
if we can dive in, because today's all about inner confidence, our own individual disability confidence as people with disabilities. So you mentioned a little of your own personal journey, so acquiring a disability earlier in your career when you were with the police. I wonder if you could just expand on that a little bit, maybe a little bit about some of the context around that, and what have you learned personally and professionally about building inner confidence?
well, I think some of it is about getting comfortable in your own skin, you know, with your identity and that aspect of you as a person that has a disability at work, you know. So then as an ERG leader, you know, sometimes there can be a bit of confidence, a lack of confidence in thinking you have to know all the answers. And of course, I've learned that you don't need to know all the answers. You just need to know where to find them. And there's a bit of fear, I suppose, around, you know, what negative bias you might experience. You know, you of course you will encounter barriers along the way. So, you know, don't be afraid of that. You know, be confident that you're doing the right thing as a person with a disability, helping your organisation. And I suppose lastly, it's about building your confidence to influence others. You know, it might feel too hard, you know, in how do you motivate others to do the right thing? You know, how do you articulate the case for what it is you're pushing? Yeah, so that for me, those are three most important barriers to confidence. It's about your subject matter knowledge, fear of the unknown, I suppose, and how to influence others.
It's great to hear you set out three kind of clear steps, and you know, listening to you now and as knowing you as I know you, you know, you can encapsulate, I guess, if we're talking about a disability confident individual, but clearly it's a process that takes time as well, and these are lessons that you have learned over a long career. And how would you describe the impact on your confidence in those very early days, because you kind of set out the steps that you've taken to build that confidence, but what's the early impact?
Yeah, I mean, in my first steps in this space, of course, it was me coming to terms with my new identity. You know, you know, I was originally in a frontline operational facing policing role, and I developed an eye condition, which, you know, nothing, you know, there's no intervention to fix that. So I realized that I had to change my career path, but I didn't want to leave the organization. I still felt I had something more to offer. So I moved from an operational role into a training and development and an inclusion diversity role. So I think building my story, yeah, understanding my own story and how to share that, but in a constructive way. Yeah. So my confidence comes from sharing and discussing solutions, not problems, or maybe sharing a bit about what I'm experiencing as the barrier, but coming up with ideas for how to overcome that. So that's about, I think, helping others that you're engaging with, you know, maybe senior leaders or your manager, those that you're engaging with. You know, it's important for you to understand that, you know, your experience of having a disability at work, and of course your perspective on what the employer response should be, is really valuable. Yeah. And realize that you might have to share that experience repeatedly with different stakeholders, but you learn to do it in a constructive way. Yeah. So you're seeking positive change, not just for yourself, but change that benefits everyone in the long run. So yeah, for me, that's, I suppose I got better at talking about, disability change to benefit people other than me. But of course, I was going to benefit in the same way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I suppose building on that in terms of how you use your own experiences, share your own story in a way that supports others to do the same, leads on to the next question, which is about ERGs and disability networks. So we know that one of the most significant impacts that a disability ERG or a network can have when it's high performing and visible and influential is that it can have this positive uplift and positive impact on the way that other people with disabilities in the organisation feel about themselves and how able they feel to share that side of themselves and how likely they are to share that side of themselves. So just wondered, from your own experience as a network leader in very different settings, so police and pharmaceuticals, why do you think networks are so well placed to support other individuals to build their inner confidence?
Well, I think your inner confidence helps you to, I suppose, to better articulate how it feels to ask for disability support at work. You can almost talk in the third person as well as, talking about your own experience. So network leaders can help others to share that, how it feels, that journey around disability at work. And of course, helping you to frame your proposals around accessibility, the things that you're asking for, and how they benefit not just you, but the organization. It might be something like, you might need accessible software, and obviously if you're making that available not just for you, for other people, that that's a productivity gain for the whole organization if they can enable accessible software to work in the environment. That's just one example. And of course, again, in your network role, you can share really the impact. You can discuss the impact arising from how the employer responds, when people are asking. And I mean the employer, it might be the line manager, because a person's experience of the reaction, when they put their hand up for some help, as a network leader, you can help them through that. Yeah, because you will experience, challenges along the way, but they're there to be overcome. So I think collectively, as a network, you bring together that shared experience, and from that collective experience, you build some more confidence that you're doing the right thing, you're asking for the right things in the right way. If that helps.
It does. And yeah, I think listening to you talk, particularly about the role of workplace adjustments, reasonable accommodations. I think one of the ways that a lack of confidence often manifests, isn't it, is a reluctance to request reasonable workplace adjustments and accommodations. So things that will help you to do a better job. And if you lack those adjustments, then it has a kind of deleterious impact on your ability to do your job, how you feel, and your level of confidence. So obviously you have a disability day job that has accessibility and adjustments in the title, Andy. So yeah, how important is it that colleagues feel able to request the adjustments that GSK is readily providing?
Well, of course, the adjustment solutions are the enablers. They're what enable you to be your best self at work, and in so doing, then to be more confident. Whatever it is you do for your organization. So your organization needs to invest in a straightforward process to help people get the solutions they need. For us, we focus on what you need, not why you need it. So when you're putting your hand up to ask for some support, I'm always a proponent of being authentic and constructive. If you're sharing your story and asking for support requests, you don't have to share everything to the person you're asking. But giving some context and having that background knowledge about why it will work for you and what benefits it will give are really helpful.
and share that aspect of themselves at work. You and Tracy are leading a global network. It's a huge global operation that you're running at GSK, and many other members of the Purple Space community are global companies as well. So what have you learned? What are your thoughts and experiences in terms of what ERG leaders need to do to support the process of building inner confidence at scale and across large global organizations?
Well, I think the principles behind an ERG are about, working together with that collective, the collective disability, the employee resource group is powerful. Yeah. And that, we usually know what is needed. We know what the organization needs to do. We know what the solutions to problems are. So, a collective voice is a more confident voice. So you're not, feeling that isolated. I would say, don't try and be a lone ranger, because it just is. It's more hard to try and tackle things alone. And of course, being an ERG leader, you're perhaps better placed to articulate the voice and ideas of your members. Not everyone's got the confidence to speak up and request structural change, individually. Whereas, an ERG representing, whether it be hundreds or thousands of people, is a much more powerful voice in convincing the organization that actually, what you're asking for, what you're proposing, whether investment in structural change, whatever it might be, is the right thing to do. Yeah. So the collective voice through an ERG is got so much benefit to the organization to be more inclusive, to influence the culture of the business.
Yeah, and I suppose one of the benefits of that of the building that community across organizations as well. So often we hear another confidence related barrier is this sense that you're dealing with this alone. And if you're working in a location perhaps where there might be a smaller headcount, it might be in a context where disability is less visible and less visible as a topic of conversation, then by connecting globally and learning from the experience of colleagues actually that may share a condition with you, they're not in your office, but they're part of this bigger global community. Hugely impactful.
Probably to add to that, so I'm thinking back to my early days as a network leader. I was very familiar and aware of established networks for other protected characteristics. And I learned a lot from engaging with those other ERGs, in terms of how they operated and how they engaged with the organization to get change that supported their protected characteristics. So, if it's still a fledgling subject in your business, there are likely to be networks, around LGBTQ plus or women in business or, other areas of diversity that have perhaps been more established. So, it's not just disability networks that help to influence the business culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be diving into how networks can work together with other identity groups later in the year as well. Andy, you have lots of different roles. You wear lots of different hats. One of the most exciting and important, I would suggest, in my unbiased opinion, is that you are also the chair of the Purple Confidence think tank. So Purple Space Inner Confidence is a huge strategic importance to us. So the Purple Confidence think tank is the group that really sets the standards by which we develop tools and resources to help ERG leaders, to help their colleagues to build their own inner confidence. So tell us why you wanted to lead such an important working group, and if you could share a little of your hopes around the impact that the group will make.
Yeah, I mean, hugely proud to be helping to shape that work. Chairing some meetings, but it's excuse me, it's the collective wisdom, if you like. And I suppose it comes back to the confidence, the inner confidence issues we talked about earlier. The collateral that the think tank is developing, the things like the helpful to know guides, of course, they're going to help to inform and shape our individual, but also our collective confidence. Not just the theory, but the practice, sharing our combined wisdom. I've kind of used that already, about how to help people with disabilities work better, with their organizations, with the aim of accelerating, investment in, I don't just mean financial investment in structural changes that support accessibility and inclusion for everyone. That, of course, in terms of impact, I believe it will help to build, individual and ERG confidence within organizations. It should help them to flourish and to work positively with their organizations. But, on top of that, a more disability confident business will engage more effectively, of course, with disabled communities, customers, service users. And I think that's one of the real strengths in ERGs and this kind of disability confidence collateral. It's not just about employment. It makes a stronger business able to, reach more markets and to serve people in a more inclusive way.
Yeah, I share your excitement. We have some incredible individuals from the Purple Space community feeding in, sharing their insights, shaping the thinking that's happening in that group. And just a few words on the helpful to know guides that you referenced. So sponsored by GSK as well. So appreciate the support of the business as well as your individual support for that. But these are guides where we have sourced the views and experience of people with a range of different disabilities and long-term conditions. So whether it's dyslexia or visual impairment or hearing impairments, and these guides have been written in a way that combines their shared insights. So individual guides focusing on individual conditions or disabilities. And what I hope is that we could put these into the hands of people, particularly who are perhaps newly acquired, and what in a few pages say, look, this is what we've learned. So when we acquired that disability, this is what we shared with our managers. These are the types of requests that we made of the business, and these are the tips that we would give to others in the same position. So just your thoughts on the power of those documents, and thinking back to yourself all those years ago, early days in the police acquiring a visual impairment, how useful would something like that have been to you?
Well, whether it's for me or the individual with the health condition or disability, you don't know what you don't know. And likewise for people without the health condition or disability, the business leaders, managers, colleagues, etc., understanding that lived experience, so the helpful to know guides will give those hints and tips about the journey it takes for someone perhaps with a low vision condition, like I did. I acquired that during working life, and how it impacted me on a day-to-day basis, and how I overcome that and developed confidence to still contribute in that business and still add value, but in a different way. So the guides should really help to inform everyone that reads them what disability confidence, we use the term a lot. What does it mean? What does it look like? What are the markers, and how to go from being less confident? What kind of steps do you need to take to be more disability confident in your particular area? And remembering, of course, no one needs to know everything. You just need to know where to find the answers, and I think the guides will help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing that really excites me about them is that for the first time, really, we're putting guidance directly into the hands of employees with disabilities. So there's been fantastic work over the years to develop guidance for colleagues working in the HR community or line managers to help them to feel more comfortable working with people with disabilities, but very little that actually helps us as disabled people to understand, how can we take ownership and control over the conversations that impact us at work. So it feels like a real shift in that way.
Well, I couldn't agree more. It's plugging a gap there. There's lots of historic, investment in resources and memberships, all quite employer centric, all for good reason, helping employers to do the right thing. But, building the employee, the individual perspective, because together that makes disability confidence. The employer structures what they should do, and the employee experience of, how they ask, how they receive and experience disability at work, helps to shape the culture, but also helps to identify where the gaps might be and what could be done better. So it's not so process heavy and becomes much more personal and individualized. So I think they really are, as you say, for the first time, plugging a gap, helping the individual to understand their journey a bit more. I know we always talk about the journey, but I certainly feel that myself in my very early days. I knew nothing. I know a little more now after 25 years, and I'm learning every day. And I've learned that by reaching into my network and into these knowledge guides that emerge.
Great. Okay, well, Andy, we're at time. We could talk for hours. We will find other opportunities to do that. And but for now, thank you for your time, and thank you for your leadership. If you want to connect with you directly, a couple of ways they can do that. So they can reach you by the member zone if you're a Purple Space member, and you're also on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Great.
No,
Okay.
it's great chatting through these things with you. We hope the content in this recording will help people to think about their own approach, their own journeys, and of course to get involved with the Purple Space community, because together we make a difference.
Great, thanks, Andy. So I do encourage you, if you want to connect with Andy, then do dive into his world. And just lastly, to thank everybody for listening. We'll be back next month for a conversation with Elaine Carroll and David Snedden from Google, which will be all about March's leadership theme, which is about the relationship between ERG leader and executive sponsor. So we'll see you then. But in the meantime, if you're a Purple Space member, don't forget that we now have peer group learning sessions for disability ERG leaders running every week. You can book on via the website. If you can't make one, then Kirsty will be in touch at the end of every month with an insights report. And if you didn't catch it before Christmas, do check out our latest resource, which is called Priceless. It's all about how disability ERGs and networks are resourced, recognised and rewarded. It's generated some interesting debate, and you can download that from the resources section on the member zone. So Andy, thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, everyone.